Hi everybody, welcome to our live show today. We're here to talk about doulas. Our topic is Doula or Don't. And we're having a live conversation about childbirth, pregnancy, prenatal nutrition, and your birthing options. We're here with Dr. Stacy Smith.
Thank you.
And I'm Sandy Pellin from Mom Life TV. And we're going to tell you a little bit about the show today.
So we're really proud to be here, and both Mom Life TV and Nature's Energy is sponsoring this through Beanie Birth, so that we can explain it more about doulas and midwifery and things like that. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about Nature's Energy. We're a nutraceutical company. We've got a 22-year history. They're all organically sourced vitamins. We are a cold processed product, meaning we don't pasteurize the liquids that we produce. So they're not exposed to high heats, which denatures the vitamins, particularly fat-soluble vitamins. And we're here today particularly about our prenatal formula. So we're very excited to do that. Has more folic acid, B12, iron, things that are essential in pregnancy. We make a full line of products, and I'll talk a little bit more about them later. But you can go to naturesenergy.com, log in, and send us any of the questions you have during the live feed.
So Mom Life TV is the lifestyle network for moms, and we're really happy to bring Anna Paula today to talk about pregnancy and doulas, and that's the type of thing that Mom Life TV does. We really come from the viewpoint of what the mom needs. As you're pregnant and as you experience the full range of the life stages of being a mom, who do you go to for advice? You have family and friends, and there's a lot of sites that are out there. But Mom Life TV is a little bit different in our approach because we really want to talk to you directly as the mom. We have a lot of lifestyle topics, anything from health, nutrition, meals, your career, finance, and then we cover all the life stages of conception and pregnancy up through new moms, moms of teens. So today we're really happy to be here at Beanie Birth in Sherman Oaks, California, and we're going to bring Anna Paula in, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about her. She's a doula. She's certified and the president-elect of DONA International. She currently sits on 2 task force at Cedars-Sinai Hospital here in Los Angeles. And with that, I'd like to introduce Anna Paula. Come on in.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to Beanie Birth.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna have a great conversation. We're gonna start talking about doulas, and then we're gonna talk about nutrition, and then childbirth in general. So it's gonna be a great show. We really look forward to your participation, so please don't forget to send in your questions.
Yes.
All right.
Ready to go.
Should we just go for it? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So I would like to start by introducing these wonderful couples that are here, and I would like to thank you guys so much for taking time to be here. One of the things that it's really important for us here at Beanie is to focus not only in the pregnancy, but also in new families, and you really represent that. I really appreciate that we have pregnant couples and new families. So thank you so much for being here. If you don't mind, I would like for you to tell us your name, and then either if you're pregnant or how old your baby is.
So I'm Justine, and this is my husband Henry, and this is Adelaide, and she's 6 months.
Thank you and welcome.
My name's Michelle, and we have a 14-month-old, and we're expecting our second one in December.
Okay.
It's my husband, Sam.
Congratulations.
My name is Bethany. This is my husband Marcos and my daughter Soraya. She'll be 2 next month, and we're expecting our second in October.
Oh, wow, congratulations. I love that. So I think in combinations with your questions online, their experience from being pregnant, having babies in different ages and stage of development, that will give us a huge variety of what is theory, what are the books telling you, what you hear from your friends, and what it's like in real life. So I really appreciate and welcome your involvement as we are talking about topics. So please feel free to let us know if you want to pitch in and share your experience. And it doesn't have to be in particular about the birth. It could be something that has been meaningful, important to you. I really want to hear from that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to start talking about doulas, and I really want to start by breaking some myths about what a doula is and how a doula can help a family. So I am Ana Paula Markel, and I work here. I'm the founder of Beanie Birth, but I am also a certified doula and the president-elect of Doula International, which is the oldest and most reputable organization to certify and train and certify doulas. I want to talk a little bit about the role of the birth doula, but also a little bit about the role of the postpartum doula, which most people don't know what they do. So a birth doula is a professional who is certified in preparing couples, giving them information about their options in regards to the birth. So the role of the doula is emotional and physical support and information without a bias, really just giving people current data and what is out there. And what we often say is most people don't know what they don't know. And we often hear from people after they have a baby, I wish that I knew this. I wish somebody had told me that. And most of the time, they don't have anybody to tell you that. So a doula will walk alongside a pregnant couple, a pregnant person, or a pregnant family, and help them to just explore all the options that are available within their community. The doula will also be there for the birth and also a little bit from the early postpartum period. And then we also have postpartum doulas, which will come in and support the family in the first few weeks when they're home. So I think we'll start with you guys. So I know that some of you had birth doulas. Did anybody had a postpartum doula? No postpartum. So see, that is exactly the norm. So most people are very familiar with birth doulas and not so much with a postpartum doula. Does anybody want to share a little bit about working with a doula and what were the things that helped you guys?
Sure, yeah. So we are here in Los Angeles without family.
You'll get it in.
And I knew that we wanted support in the room with us when we were in labor. Henry was super, super hands-on, but I knew that we needed somebody to support him because I would be just completely out of it. So we hired a doula through Beanie, and we actually hired two because we had a doula and then she had a backup, and her partner ended up being at our birth, and then the doula we hired took over. So we actually got to have both of them for our prenatals and for everything through the 18 hours of labor and then the next day. So it was really, really helpful to have both of them with us that whole time.
Thank you. And I love that you shared about Henry's role, because that is one of the myths that people have about doulas, is that doulas will replace the partner. And it's actually the goal for the doula is to enhance the role of the partner by preparing the partner and giving him or her some clues in how to best support the laboring person. So Henry, how was it for you in having doulas there?
Well, I will say at first I was kind of skeptical. I don't know if most dads are or whatnot, but so I was like, well, I don't know. I'm a pretty helpful person. I can probably help you through this. And then we did the birthing class here, and then I left and I was like, okay, yeah, we should probably have another person. That would be helpful. So yeah, and it was great, and it didn't replace me at all, but just having someone say, hey, why don't you try this? Or, oh, remember we talked about, you could do this. Or, hey, why don't you take a break? I'll jump in. Or me just like, is that normal?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, this is part of it. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And that is another thing that we commonly say, is that doulas bring the normalcy of the process of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. You have to think that, in the older days, our great-grandmothers would all gather and share stories about pregnancy, birth, marriage, raising kids. In our modern villages, we are, doing our own thing in social media feed. So it's hard to have a realistic idea of what this is about. So it really is important to have somebody there that can normalize the very unnormal things that happen either in labor or in raising a young child. Very good. Do we have any questions online that we want to?
We do have some questions, and actually, if we could bring Stacy back, I had a question for him. And I thought maybe he could also just tell us a little bit about his experience, because he's a dad of 4 and he helped deliver his kids. So the question is, how long should I take prenatal vitamins before trying to get pregnant?
You know, any of those things that you know that you are preparing to have a child, we want good nutrition all the way up through that point. So vitamins are a supplement to good nutrition in general. So whether you're talking to your healthcare provider or you're talking to your midwife, anybody that can advise you to make sure that your diet, the basis of your diet is as good as we can possibly do. And then supplementation on prenatal is pre-pregnancy, during your pregnancy. And then as Anna will tell us, the postpartum segment is almost the most serious part for women, because at that point you've already given birth and you're gearing up to have this baby, and you want your baby to be really healthy, and then sometimes the moms will neglect their own health, or we have the social pressures you alluded to that are so much stronger, particularly in, you know, bi-coastally.
Yes, I love those topics, and I also want our audience to know that Dr. Stacy has been nominated by me, an official doula, because he
I did ignore that part,
has
didn't I?
4 kids, and he also has had, through his family experience, different birthing experience. So not only he's got incredible credentials as a chiropractor, a naturopathic doctor, sports medicine, and acupuncture.
Yes,
correct?
correct.
That's a lot of wonderful skills, but he's also a very experienced dad. So this information is really important, and those are the things that people don't know, right? Like the importance of prenatal vitamins before you're even pregnant, during your pregnancy, of course, but also after you have your baby. A lot of times, you know, people think that it's really not that big of a deal, when in reality it is. It will help your baby to grow healthier. It will help you to feel better and have more energy, sleep better, and look better.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It is absolutely true. And Nature's Energy, we put a lot of time and effort into formulation of products. And right now, if you log on to naturesenergy.com, you have a chance to win a 9-month supply of prenatal vitamins. And we also have Dr. Clark Kinghorn, and he is on staff and willing, or he's able right now to answer your questions through Facebook or through Nature's Energy. If you have any of those more specific questions about formulation or about the product or how to take it.
I had one more question. How often do you use this, and will it have any side effects? It is prenatal vitamins, so it really is important to have that. So maybe you can answer that.
You know, the prenatal vitamin, and as I said, everything is based with the products that we do are liquid, and the 72 organically sourced minerals are the base. But by taking a liquid product, right now it's a 32-ounce bottle. I've got them. And it's a 2-ounce cap that you take off. Because they are cold pasteurized, it has to be refrigerated. But the great thing is, a lot of women, when they're pregnant, they're sensitive to foods, they're sensitive to smells. Oftentimes the prenatal vitamins in a pill form upset stomach, those kind of things. But with a liquid, you can take it, and as far as the dosage and how much, you can split it up into 3 doses a day. So you're only taking a third of that capful a day. You can put it in a smoothie. And Nature's Energy actually has recipes online for smoothie recipes and ways to kind of distribute the vitamin over time so that you don't get that same upset.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you feel like you got enough information on nutrition or the importance of vitamins for pregnancy and in the postpartum period? Like, was that something that your doctor or midwife talked to you about that, or doulas, or, you know, like, where do you think like you got?
I think the prenatal vitamin definitely is very necessary. Like before you even planning, I mean, in the process when you're planning to get pregnant, and I take prenatal vitamin before I have my first one, and I'm still taking it all the way now.
Yes.
And now I get my second one pregnant, expecting. And I think it helps, especially, for all the period that you're trying to be a mom and before and after, I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about for Sam? Is Sam taking prenatal vitamins? No. well, we can't forget the partners, right? So I think that's another part of the conversation that we were having today, is that a lot of times, you know, as the woman is pregnant and the belly is growing, a lot of the attention is in, you know, taking care of her, but we also have to take care of the partners, and not only the physical needs of a partner, but the emotional needs of becoming a parent. So, you know, it is a joke, but not really, because, you know, I do feel like a lot of times the partners are kind of left behind. Did any of you feel like that the partners...
He take vitamins, but not prenatal.
Okay, very good. But did any of you feel like that there was a lack of attention for the partner, either during the pregnancy or during the labor or in the postpartum period, if the focus was more like baby mom. Like.
I mean, no.
Okay. Were you high maintenance then?
The mom
No.
has a huge role in
Yes.
obviously, the pregnancy and the delivery and all that stuff, and I'm fine letting her have that. That's
Very good. That sounds good.
Great. And then Ana Paula, I did
Yes.
want to just get back to the people who really don't know anything about doulas.
Doulas, okay.
We have a question. How do I find a doula?
Okay, so depending on where you live, it's really important to know that there is a difference in between a doula that has gone through good, reliable training that really prepares her to be a doula in a professional sense. Of course, every person that wants to provide support has a heart for it. But there is a little bit more than that. It's also important to know skills. There are skills in communication, there are skills in information, and also techniques that we can help people in labor. And also a lot about navigating the whole medical system and how to be a professional in different scenarios. So the best way for you to find a doula is to ask your friends and your community, ask your care provider if your care provider has some doulas that they recommend. It's very important for our audience to know that the American Congress of Obstetrics and Gynecologists has released quite a few statements since 2016 really recommending labor support. So this is not an alternative anymore. This is pretty mainstream. Doulas have really earned our place in the sense that we can help outcomes in relations to decreasing cesarean rates and most of it increasing birth satisfaction. So I would say start with your care provider in your community. You can also go to the DONA website. It's doula.org, and you can put your zip code and it will give you a database of doulas in your community. Or you can find a place like Beanie in your own community that knows doulas, trains doulas, and can connect you with doulas. But it's really important to ask sometimes more than one source to make sure that you are hiring someone that you trust. Another thing that I also want people to know is that, of course, all of these, the professional aspect is really important, but the personal connection has really to be there. You really have to hire somebody that you feel you can have no filters with that person and just talk about anything, discuss anything, behave in any way you want, because as most of us know, first-time mom labor can be long, and you want to spend that time with somebody that you like, trust, and also equally for your partner. Your partner needs to be very comfortable with that doula as well.
Yeah. And Ana Paula, at what point during somebody's pregnancy should they start to look for a doula or just to work with one?
Right. So the majority of people will look for a doula around second trimester. I feel like that's usually the time that people don't have morning sickness anymore, and they really get over, the concept of the pregnancy, and then they start to think like, oh goodness, now this baby has to come out somehow, and I need to start looking to my options. So I would say second trimester is usually what's most common. But we often get people that, pee in a stick and then are looking for a doula because they want the doula to help them to make decisions and to help them to explore local hospitals or midwives or doctors and just really help them to navigate that choice. And we also have the last minutes too, that either people that thought they didn't need a doula and then last minute panic and want one, or didn't know what a doula was until later in the game.
And can you explain the difference between a midwife and a doula?
Yes, another
That's
very
a big
common
question.
It's a common question. So a midwife is a trained professional in the entire medical aspect of the pregnancy and the birth. The midwife is responsible for the health of the mother and the baby. So midwife do very similar jobs than an obstetrician. They just don't do surgery. The doula has no medical task whatsoever. We kind of have the best of the job. Our job is really the emotional aspect of it, connection, and the overall experience in becoming a parent. So that is the main difference in between a doula and a midwife.
And then what kind of training does a doula get? And when they become certified. We actually had a question on how can I sign up to be a doula?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, if you go to the DONA website, you can find local trainings in your area, and they are listed all over. We certainly offer trainings here at Beanie several times a year. I love to train doulas. It's one of my biggest passions. And the training in itself, it's 3 days. It's 3 very long, full days. But the process of certification is much longer than that. So a lot of times we'll say, oh, it's only 3 days. Anybody can take a training in 3 days and become a doula. But that's not it. Before they come to the training, they have to do some reading. Then they take the training. And then there is a process of certification that they go through, which implies more reading, implies attending some births that they are observed by the families and by a health professional. They have to do many other steps. So in average, it will take a person anywhere from 3 months to a year to complete the whole process, depending how committed they are.
Now, I think that most people, when they think of doulas and midwives, they do think of the home births. But you had told me earlier that most of the labor that you do is in a hospital.
It is. And another myth that people have about doulas is they think that doulas is for natural birth, you know, and that's not true at all. I mean, we will support people in whatever decisions they make, and a lot of times that is having medications in their labor, either because there is a medical need for it or preference or choice. But I think like the percentage of births that I particularly attend in home births goes with national statistics, you know, and we love to attend home births. Home births are really beautiful, and we actually learn a lot from midwives and watching them work. But a lot of times people that are having a home birth may feel like that they don't need a doula because they have a midwife. So that may be one of the reasons that doulas don't attend as many home births as we do in the hospital. And I think like people that go to the hospital are really scared of the environment, the medical atmosphere. They are afraid that they may not know how to make medical decisions. So doulas help them to navigate and understand things that are being offered to them. Again, without a bias, without being pro or against things. It's really about just giving them information so they can make their own decisions.
Because you provide a lot of emotional support.
That's what it is, and I think that in the end of the day, that really helps people to feel better about their experience and to feel a little bit more reassured. Like, I mean, did you feel that doulas help you in that regard? Like,
I'm actually a nurse practitioner, so I've seen births and everything, and I know the role of a medical provider is not to offer that emotional support because they have multiple patients. So I knew that I needed that, and it really helped the whole scenario. I feel like they're more of the mediator, so and the eyes and ears, because you're just so much in your zone that you don't know what's going on. So they can really advocate for you.
That's very good, and I really appreciate you saying that you're a nurse practitioner, because it must be also challenging to be like on the professional side and then to be like on the vulnerable mother side. Did you feel like that you knew too much?
I did, and that's why I wanted that route, definitely. And with this second one, I'll need it even more because now I know what's
you know how it feels like?
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yes, and maybe you can talk about how each birth is different, and that even if you've had children before, how it could differ, and maybe you didn't use a doula and now you want to.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Every birth is completely different. Every pregnancy is different. And I think that, a lot of times people want to try to guess or anticipate how that experience is going to be. And one thing that we learn as doulas is the more experienced we are, we learn not to guess how things are going to go, because, a lot of times we think it's going to go fast and it's not. And it varies a lot in the personality of the family and how they feel about the pregnancy, how much they trust that process, how informed they are, but also how scared they are and how insecure they feel. It has a lot to do of how their pregnancy has been, how much support they've had, and obviously the care that they choose. I would say choosing the place of birth really impacts the outcome of that birth, right? We do know that some hospitals have much higher cesarean rates than other hospitals. We do know that some hospitals offer more alternatives to birthing families than other hospitals. So it's really important that you know to navigate all of these, and all of those things will definitely impact the labor experience. And of course, you know, a little bit of it is luck. You know, like some people just have shorter, easier labors. Some people have longer and more laborious, you know, process, but it's all very good. I want to shift gears just a little bit about prenatal nutrition, because, you know, one of the ways that we can potentially impact, you know, the well-being of the mother in labor is through prenatal nutrition, and I really would like to explore a little bit about that. So some of the things that people that are planning to get pregnant can do to optimize their nutrition intake during pregnancy and labor as well. So I would love to hear a little bit about your wisdom.
You know, I think some of it we can look at historically too, because it's changed over the years. So my son, who was a home birth and with a midwife, is 32 years old now. And as she was saying, I have a variety of experiences, because my daughter was born vaginally but after a C-section. And then my next two are also with midwives. But as she was saying, where you're comfortable, or where the woman and the pregnant woman is, where the mom's going to be the most comfortable is essential. So my wife was much more comfortable in a birthing center than she was, you know, going to be at a home birth. And yet, because I have a long background in alternative medicine, it was very important for her to choose where she was going to be the most comfortable. But with that being said, with my son being 32, the exercise and the nutrition back then was so much different now. So what do you think in terms of the nutrition? As we said, we have to start with a good basis, and your nutritionist or your primary healthcare provider or midwife, even doulas, are going to have a good idea of where that should be. But as far as exercise, what is your opinion on where it should be? Because I know it has changed over. My current wife and the mother of my two daughters was a very active triathlete and raced internationally. So going into pregnancy, this was a big change for her. And some of the doctors have different opinions about it.
Well, I think like ACOG recommendation is, you know, if there is no risk for early premature labor or, you know, no health risks, that people definitely should exercise. But on a day-to-day life of a doula, you know, I think that is also important to individualize that recommendation, because to some people exercise is triathlon and they are really, you know, full-on exercise, very committed. And some people, by the time they get pregnant, have not exercised in 5-10 years. So maybe triathlon is not a good idea for that person. So, you know, it's really about, start with walking, prenatal yoga. I think movement is very important for, you know, not only the health, but also those aches and pains of pregnancy that really will help. Plus the endurance for the labor, you know, to have like those strong thigh muscles that can hold your squats, it will really come handy. But you kind of have to go slow. And I think one thing that is really important in fitness is to make it fun. You know, people, and I think like especially for when your son was born, you know, like we imagine exercise being something so boring and so hard. And these days, like they create so many fun classes that not only you have fun, you exercise, but you make friends. You know, I think that's one of the things that we see with the movement or exercise classes that we hold here, is that I think one of the main reasons people come is that they want to be with other pregnant people or with other new parents. It creates a sense of community. So, you know, I think, of course, fitness is a great idea, but, you know, but how do you see that it changed from your son to now?
You know, there was a period of time where the exercise for pregnant women, they were making limitations on heart rate evaluation, and they didn't want women to get or have an elevated heart rate. And now we've kind of come full circle, and very much to what you said. If you are exercising now, and if you are lifting weights, or if you are running, or if you are swimming, as long as your body can sustain that and it feels comfortable with it, and obviously yoga is really good, that's kind of where we've come back to, is try to maintain and continue what you're doing. I found, and advice-wise, I've seen that actually the strength training in conjunction with the flexibility in yoga is really important, because the more muscle mass, lean muscle mass that a woman can maintain during pregnancy means that, again, we're back to the social pressure for postpartum. but the weight comes off easier, the strength is there, you can compete, you know you're going to be going without sleep. All of those things are, yeah.
That's very good. And I just want to also to remind everybody that is planning to have a baby or that is pregnant, that your body is amazing, that it does a great job in embracing the growth, but it does go back. Not only, you know, in the way it looks, but also in the way it feels. And how that happens and when that happens, it's also different from different people depending on the experience. So don't compare yourself with other people. Some people feel really good after giving birth in 8 weeks. Some people may take 8 months or more. But I think that if you are having, you know, healthy movement or exercise and healthy nutrition, you will get there.
So I'm going to plug a product, since we talked about this before.
Yes.
Okay, so I made reference to the 72 trace minerals, organically sourced, plant-based, not from ground-up toasted rocks. And I was telling her this story because we did the Anaheim show for Nature's Energy for products. And this is actually the mineral water that you can also take every day. It's just the mineral water. And I came home from the show with a bunch of samples. I had like 180 bottles of these left over. So at the time, my girls were in soccer. They were playing like U10, U12 soccer. And so I started giving them, and we were coaching, both my wife and I. She played like for 13 years. I read books. But we did coach soccer for a long time. So I started giving them the mineral water, just the samples, in place of the Gatorade and all of the sugar stuff. And then as time went on and a couple of weeks passed and Dr. Stacy got lazy and wasn't bringing them, and they're like, Coach Stacy, we need the mineral water. So I called my sister, who is owner-operator of Nature's Energy. I said, you know what we need to do? We need to make a concentrated form of the minerals with more electrolytes in it that they can use. So what we have is mega minerals. So you take 1 2 ounce and you put it in your 8 ounce bottle of water. So if you're going to yoga, or you're going to do aerobics, or you came home for a run, or you're at the gym working out, you just add this to your water bottle and you've got mineral replacement and electrolyte replacement automatically. So this came from soccer players.
In my mind, when I heard all of that, I was like, and that would be also great for labor,
right?
I mean, I would love for women to drink this instead of.
We're gonna make Beanie Birth sport.
Yeah, we're gonna make a roll.
And we're gonna
Dr. Stacy, we have a question. How do they taste? I gag easily. Now, obviously, anybody that has any kind of nausea problems during their pregnancy, and they're taking.
Well, you guys both tasted them. What did you think?
Delicious.
Yeah,
I thought it was excellent.
And that's what I said.
Like a nice mango flavor.
Yeah, it's peach mango. And anybody that does have a problem, I said, you know, that's the thing with the liquid is, you know, you can split it up in 3 doses during the day if you wanted, or add it to smoothies, or add it to your juice.
I mean, I think
it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting. That's like one of the benefits in my mind, because there's so many people who can't swallow these big pills.
That's right.
That's true.
You know, to have a liquid is much more soothing.
Right.
And
yeah, and some of these vitamins are like really big.
Yeah, really big. Excellent.
All right.
And if we can move on to another topic, unless, do you want to continue with the nutrition? Are we good?
I think that, you know, I would like to talk a little bit about, with these lovely couples, a little bit about their experience in, you know, their labors or birth, or even the early parenting phase. So, like, you know, if you think about rookies that are watching this online, you know, like pregnant with their first baby in like this fantasy land, what would be like one thing that you would say, wow, you know, this, I wish I knew this would have prepared me a lot differently? Anybody feels like compelled to?
I think that everyone talks about pregnancy and about sleep deprivation, but nobody talks about like the healing process postpartum and like how, I'm going to be honest, how painful it is after. So just that aspect, like trying to balance like the sleep deprivation and the changes to your body and like healing and dealing with the, I mean, some people don't have pain, but I personally did.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important topic, and it's very common. You know, people put so much focus on the pregnancy and on the birth, right? And then you have this bundle of joy, and you go home and you realize that's when labor really begins, is when you are home with your baby.
1 month's water.
So I think that we do have to have a little bit more focus on preparing people for the postpartum period and in the physical recovery as well, right? So you may have had a vaginal birth, you may have had a cesarean birth, and regardless, you will have to do some healing, either, through an incision or your perineum, your vagina, and I just want to say that vaginas don't break for having a baby, but they may need a little bit of healing, a little bit of rest, and just a little bit of perhaps some time with your feet off the floor. And I think that's a lot of times one of the issues that we have in this country, and especially because of what Justine said, she's not from Los Angeles. I feel like everybody moves somewhere. So when you have a baby, you don't have your family there to help you and all these people making food for you or taking care of you. And that's one of the reasons that the postpartum doula is becoming more and more popular, because she comes in to do all that. If you go home and you have to heal your body, but at the same time you have to take care of your house and you have to take care of your pets and you have to go to the grocery store and you have to be, like you said, waking up to take care of a baby, it really is a recipe for disaster, for somebody to really not feel great. And we really do have this backwards. I a lot of times hear about people bragging about, oh, I just had a baby and, a week ago, and here I am having lunch with my friend. No, go home, go rest. You're recovering from the pregnancy. You're not recovering only from the birth. Your body goes through major transformation in pregnancy, and it will go back. But the more you rest, the faster it will happen. Now, how allowed that mother is to rest, right? We have like one of the worst maternity leave or family leave after you give birth. So a lot of our mothers are being forced to go back to work too soon, or the partners having to go back to work and not being there to support them. And that's really important piece to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and on that same topic, we had a question, are doulas 24/7? What happens when I give birth in the middle of the night? And again, postpartum, what are your hours, or
Yes.
how are you helping support the mother when she's on that 24-hour schedule?
Absolutely. Justine?
Yes. So the reason we had 2 doulas was because our first doula that we hired was still breastfeeding her baby. So she was on the clock for us from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And our backup, her partner doula, was on the clock for us from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So we actually had 24-hour coverage within 2 weeks of our due date. And I went into labor at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but I didn't call to have our doula come help us until, well, he called. Was it like 10:30
No,
maybe?
it was earlier,
Like
8:30
8:30 p.m. And so the partner doula came at that point to our home where I was laboring, and then we headed to the hospital, I think around midnight. So she went from our home to the hospital with us, and then she stayed all the way through. She was actually born at 8:10, right at the shift change. So I had 2 doulas at one point, and actually, because our daughter ended up in the NICU, it was perfect for, that was not perfect, but it was perfect that we had the support.
Right.
Because the first doula stayed with me, and then as she was going home, we had the second doula with us. So my husband could go to the NICU with the baby, and the doula stayed with me, which was immensely helpful because I probably would have been by myself in the recovery room, and I was wiped. I couldn't really process anything at the time. So having somebody there that could feed me oatmeal, and she got my sleep mask, and she put on like a playlist, and I took a nap so I had somebody with me and somebody to talk to him while he was dealing with everything that she was going through. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And yes, so I think that the experience that you had with the 2 doulas having the day and night, it's also very helpful for the doulas that are watching that may have little kids, or they may have, day jobs. And it's really nice to think that you can find creative ways to be a doula. But normally a doula is on call 24 hours a day. There is, no way to know of when a baby is going to be born. So doulas are basically always attached to their phones and on call, and will go at whatever time they call. So, it's either in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day, and we'll be there until the baby's born, either that is 8 hours or 30-something hours. So when you hire a doula, you are hiring for that service regardless of what it is. So usually when you hire a birth doula, what that includes is prenatal visits, that they come to your house and discuss discuss options for the birth and help you to navigate all your options and explore many possibilities and how to cope with labor, and then the labor in itself, and then some postpartum support as well with visits, not so much working as a postpartum doula.
So Monica asks, I would love to use a doula, but I'm a little worried about the cost.
Yeah, that's very important, and thank you for asking that question. You know, I feel like doulas are professionals just like any other professionals, and they deserve to get paid. But with that said, it's just like in any service that you may want, you always find, you know, the lower end of the spectrum and the higher end of the spectrum. So it's really important not to give up and not to think like that all doulas charge the same price. I think that just like in any profession, the price increases with experience. So usually the more experienced doulas will charge more than the newer doulas. But there are programs that people can go and find doulas that would be pro bono or lower cost, either through organizations or sometimes, you know, through some grants that some organizations will have for the doulas. So then the doulas get paid, but they will provide that service at a lower cost.
Yeah, from what I understand, there's only 2 states where doulas are actually covered by insurance plans, and California is not one of them.
Yes. Well, so it's also another good conversation. So there's 2 states that the government will pay for the doulas, but insurance company on the private sector are starting to reimburse for doula services. So that's also very important to do some homework and call your insurance carriers and ask them if they cover doulas. May not cover the whole price, but they may cover a portion. Because it makes sense, right? They decrease costs, so they are saving money on the other end.
Right, especially if there's any kind of complications or if it's a real high stress pregnancy.
Absolutely.
Just the peace of mind to know that you have somebody there with you, because let's face it, doctors are very busy, and a lot of times a hospital will send you back home if you're really not in your later stages of delivery and your later stages of labor. And to have somebody there by your side emotionally that knows what they're doing has to be invaluable.
Yes, and also they send you home early after you have your baby too. It's like you have your baby, goodbye. So then it's really helpful to have somebody there. And you said that really well too. And that's absolutely right. Like the medical professional, I see that a lot with labor and delivery nurses. They are wonderful, and they really want to provide the emotional support, but they don't have that time. They're really busy with other tasks that takes them away from that emotional support. And I think in Justine's case, like, in having a baby go to the NICU, like I'm so grateful that you had doulas there with you to go through that.
Yeah, I think you mentioned about emotional support. I think it's really important, especially like postpartum, because I can remember on the day that we leave hospital, go back to our home with the baby, and that's the day. So we are lucky we have family supporting us, but I still remember that day when I go back home with the baby, and it was like, oh, it's all on us now.
Yeah.
And then you have to there's a kind of emotional, I would say, I don't know if it's a frustration, but you need to face reality that you need to support yourself. And I think that kind of emotion, if there's somebody can help supporting you at that time, it will be much better, I would say, the experience. Yeah.
Yes, Michelle, thank you so much for bringing that up. It's so true. I feel like the birth is like this, fireworks of emotions, and you kind of are in a high, right? And then by the time you go home, like the high is wearing off, and you're like, oh boy. And usually you leave your house messy because, you're in labor at home. So then you go to the hospital, your house is kind of messy, and then you come home, your house is messy, and you're tired, and, the visitors. So it can be really confusing. It's like this confusion of emotions. So to have people there to not only support you emotionally, but on the practical side too, right? To go to the grocery store for you, make some food for you. That's really important.
Yeah. So we have Stacy who says, doulas are definitely for home births. I'm a labor nurse and birth doula. And home births are my favorite births to attend. And maybe you can talk about delivering at home and what somebody would need to do for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm with her, I love to attend home births because I feel like I learned so much by watching the midwives. And I feel like in the hospital, there is always the political aspect of the labor that you have to always be negotiating or, like you said, being that mediator. On home births, you don't have that piece. So you really focus on the birth in itself. And I know you've had home births, so, it really is a very different experience. But I would say, for somebody who is curious about home birth, I also want to say that home birth is for low risk people, and that's why home birth is safe. A lot of times when people think of home birth, they just put everybody in that category, but midwives do work with low risk pregnancies. And midwives are, extremely skilled, and they actually bring to the home a lot of equipment that they would have in case of an emergency. So that's another myth that people have about home births. They think like, they're going to bring some herbs, boil some water, and hope for the best. But it's a little bit more than that. Did you feel safe when your wife was giving birth at home, or were you like, I'm not sure about that?
I think that's a couple of questions. I think the first thing with the midwives have an advantage over OBGYNs in general is much to you said in regards to how many patients they have. So how big is this practice and how much time and attention you get? Yeah. So with the midwife being able to do all of the OBGYN responsibilities, but having generally a less busy clientele, I think the woman gets a lot more personal attention. Yeah. They get to know the woman more. Yes. It behooves the midwife herself or himself to get to know the patient so much better.
Absolutely.
Because I think there's a tighter connection there. So then the trusting, when you talk about the fear, whether it's from the father's side or from the mother's side, I think that trust is there, so the fear is reduced. I think they have so much more knowledge going with midwifery than standard care.
It is true, and I think that,
and that is my bias.
Yes, that's okay. It's all right to have a bias. I always tell people it's okay to have a bias as long as you disclaim, right?
Yeah.
I can always give people data, but I can also give you bias if that's what you're looking for. Yeah. Not on a professional content though, but I feel like with midwives, it's exactly what you said. It's like that 101 and spending time together. It really becomes all about prevention. And one huge piece to it is nutrition. Medical doctors have no training in nutrition whatsoever. I remember when I was pregnant and I asked my doctor about nutrition, he gave me the food pyramid, like the old one. Eat white bread. And okay, I think we can do better than that.
No relationship between diet and disease.
Exactly. And midwives will be like, okay, these are the nutrients that you need and these are the foods that you find. But then if they say, I don't like this, but then you replace with that, or then you need a supplement for that. And, it's really about optimizing, putting the body in an optimal state to prevent bleeding and prevent high blood pressure and all of those things that, there is this very old wisdom that midwives bring with them. And they are totally, scientifically backed up. So, yeah.
And I think it is important to keep as close as that is, and the more comfort the woman has going into giving birth, the easier it is also for the father. And that's one of the things we hadn't talked about too much, but for dads themselves, generally they're not very knowledgeable about what birth is. This whole pregnancy and their wife changing in 9 months is shocking. They go into it scared, and as a man, you feel like you have to be the protector of your family. You have to protect your wife, and now your wife is going to go through all of this pain. So whether it is, with a midwife or taking proper birthing classes, and we've seen even studies done in 2013 in the UK, the more involved the father is from the time of the first doctor's appointment or midwife appointment through whether it's ultrasound, through the birth itself, and beyond that, increases childhood cognition. For social culturally, it works much better. There are some cultural biases, but we even see men that are involved in the breastfeeding. We have lactation classes right here. The longer the woman is likely to breastfeed, the more involved the father is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of times people say, the man doesn't really becomes aware that he's a father until later on when he can communicate with the child.
Yeah, that's
Don't believe
true.
that stuff, it really starts whenever you decide that it starts. And in my opinion, that starts in pregnancy. We now know that the baby in the womb can hear, that the baby in the womb remember noises that are familiar. So of course, if the partner is talking to the baby, they will recognize that voice and it becomes safe to them. And it's that involvement that really creates bond. Also, for the couple to really go through that experience together instead of, so I think it's a good point. And, we do have to involve the partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody had asked about if during a home birth, if there is a complication, should they be nervous?
Okay, so if there is home birth, midwives will always work with backup physicians and a hospital that is within, reliable distance, that it's not so hard to get to. So if there is, they will never wait for it to be a full-on emergency. If things are not looking optimal, they will consider a transport, and then a lot of times a home birth ends in a hospital if they feel like, for whatever, either the baby is not tolerating labor well, or there is blood pressure issues with the mother, or any other red flags. They will make the decision in between the midwife, the family, and the backup doctor, and perhaps transport to have a safe transport.
Right, and just to clarify about epidurals, that doulas do not do epidurals, correct, or do they?
Well, we don't put them in place.
Right.
That's the
That's right.
anesthesiologist's
It's a medical
job.
provider has to do
Yes.
that.
We do other things that we can perhaps induce relaxation and comfort measures, but definitely not medical ones. But we do support people that choose epidurals, and a lot of times, epidurals have side effects. That's one of the things that people don't realize. A lot of times when they have an epidural, that sometimes they itch, sometimes they cause, other unpleasant sensations. So the doula helps to navigate all of that.
That's great. And do you have like a personal story, something that is just so memorable in your experience as a doula that maybe you can share?
Oh, I have so many. I mean, every birth is absolutely incredible for completely different reasons. I think every birth that I go to, I learn something completely new. But I would say, the births that pop into my head right now are the ones that I'm surprised by the woman's reaction, because a lot of times, you will meet a woman that is really looking forward to labor and feels very confident about it and does labor just like that. But a lot of times you'll meet somebody who's really shy, that doesn't talk much, that is a little fearful. And then in labor, it's almost like this shining personality comes up, and they really, surprise both me and their partners. It's like, wow, we didn't know she had this roaring strength that comes within her. So that's always a fun surprise. Labor is also really funny. There's a lot of funny things that happen in labor that I think a lot of times people don't realize that. Things like in coping with labor, people will do unusual things sometimes, and they are funny in a way, right? A lot of times they will be humming or moving, and and I'm not talking about people that do that normally, people just behaving in a very unusual way. I remember one birth that in the end of it, when I was leaving, I said goodbye, and then the partner looked at me and said, okay, goodbye, you were amazing, thank you so much, but I just have to say, and then he looked at his wife and he said, you were behaving like a crazy person. What you do for a living is crazy. We were all crazy here, we were all swaying and moaning together. It's yeah, you catch yourself doing things that, in a social content, you wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
All right, so I also believe that you have some discount codes, or?
We do.
Okay.
So
you
Nature's
wanna share that
Energy, also having the special, so sign into naturesenergy.com and win a 9-month supply of prenatal. But also for everyone else, there's a 10% off on prenatal, and you just go to naturesenergy.com and use the code word prenatal, and you're on your way. For 10%, you can try the other vitamins. So line of vitamins we have, but we have a children's formula. We have, I can show you, children's formula that we have, and then the minerals. This is the all-in-one formula that we do. We also do another product that Anna was really excited about, which is a children's chewable colostrum. So more vitamin D and calcium than almost any other source that you can get. Very good for allergies and for things of that nature, the minerals. So anyway, we're excited to be here again with you.
I want to ask, because I was talking about acting weird in labor, did you guys have any kind of funny or weird or interesting labor stories? Anything that unusual that happened in your labor or fun? You were all serious labors?
We don't have
have that much experience, many experience. We just have one, so I think
Yes,
funny enough.
yes, funny enough, yes. Very good.
I honestly just did what works. I remember with my doula specifically, I knew her as a friend, and when it came to that time, I was like, I need to know what to do. And she was like, don't worry, we'll get there, we'll get there. And I was like, no, but I need to know. I like to prepare. And she told me, which I realized later, that whatever you think you'll need in that moment or will not be what you really need, or as far as activity or like comfort, or like you can make a whole playlist, but that music could be like awful to you. So yeah, it just it was really interesting to in just that aspect. Like,
And did you feel like as you were laboring that you would then know what to do, like your instincts kind of kicked in?
Yes and no. I basically tried everything from like positioning or getting out of bed or going on the ball, and then like taking a shower, like squatting. Sometimes I would find like relief if I like stand on my tippy toes or like hunching over. It was really random. And I noticed that in different stages of labor, certain positions worked and certain ones caused more pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely, and I
yeah.
think that's exactly it. Like you really have to try things, and what you said is so true. A lot of times you try something in the earlier phases of labor, and you may not like it. Also, if somebody suggests something like, stand up or lean or sit on the ball or even sit on the toilet, it's a nice way to labor. Believe it or not, people like to labor sitting on the toilet. A lot of times you don't like to do that, but then a couple hours later, maybe just the thing. It's just like in parenting too, sometimes like you offer something to your child and they really don't like it, or it doesn't look like it's gonna work, and in a couple of weeks, it's just the thing. So you always have to maintain flexibility and an open mind. And a lot of times, like I feel like it is true, like people, in birthing class, we practice different comfort measures, and a lot of times I hear people say, oh, I don't like this one. But then in labor, they do, so it's exactly what you're saying. In Brazil, we have a saying, which is you dance according to the music. So it's exactly what you said. You just do what it works at that time. So that's well said.
I think just listen to your body.
Yes.
Definitely.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to your body, and that's another thing that we don't do often, right? We either in nutrition, in fitness, in pregnancy, in birth, in recovery. It's really important to tune in, and listen to your body, especially in regards to rest. Both in pregnancy and in postpartum, we feel guilty when we rest, but your body needs rest. It's not, you're not lazy if you're resting, you're just like restoring, and that's where the name comes from. So it's very important to listen to your body. And it's true, in labor, your body kind of tells you like when you should get up, when you should move, when you should be quiet. But we were just so used to like getting information from outside source that we, everybody knows how to give birth. It's in our, genes. We are made to succeed in birth. So did you want to say something? I saw you raising your hand.
Going back to plugging a doula for like couple support, my contractions were like endlessly on top of one another. So originally at childbirth class, they said, oh, there's, you have space, you have time between contractions to recover. And I just thought I was in normal, what is typical labor. But it turns out that they were like pretty intense and on top of one another. So he couldn't leave to do anything else. We have a 2-story apartment, and if I needed water, if I wanted Gatorade, if I wanted to try eating a Cliff Bar, like he couldn't leave me to go get those things for me because I was asking him to put full pressure on my back every contraction.
I had like 45 seconds
In between
to run down the stairs,
to do anything.
try to fill the thing back up, the water bottle, run back up.
Yeah. So when we finally had our doula come to the apartment, it was really helpful to have somebody who could stay with me and let him go do what he needed to do for himself or for us, and then switch on and off. She ran around and got, our bags together. Yeah. She grabbed stuff together for us while he stayed with me, and just different. I think we left our bathtub would have stayed full of water if she hadn't drained it for us right before we left.
You said the place was a mess.
Yeah. So, because we had a moment where we're like, has our bathtub been full of water for 3 days? And it hadn't. She had, she had made sure to drain it before we left. So just stuff like that. Having another brain that's not as emotionally invested in everything that's going on to follow you around and really take care of both of you.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, like clear thinking, right? Because like as a partner, even when partners take birthing class and they read all the books, you're so emotional because it's such, you're becoming a parent. It's really a big deal, and you're watching your partner do like this incredible work that can be, uncomfortable. So there's all these emotions. So to have somebody there that can be, more like, okay, let's empty the bathtub before we leave, or get all the things that we need before we go. Yeah, that's a very good point.
And Ana Paula, I would love to just take 1 second for you to explain your shirt that you selected to wear today.
Okay, so Mother Lover is a campaign for Mother's Day that Alliance of Moms is making, and Alliance of Moms is a wonderful organization that supports pregnant women in the foster care system. So you can go to Alliance of Moms and check it out. I also want to give a little plug for what's happening this weekend in Washington, D.C. There is a march that is happening on Sunday, on Mother's Day, and it's called March for Moms. And you have like all these birth activists that are there right now. From Doula International, we have 2 board members, and we have many other organizations joining, and they are lobbying today for some changes in some of the bills to offer people all of those things that we were talking today, including, better maternity leave, better prenatal care. So I just want to say hello to my fellow activists that are, doing the work to benefit all of us, and the information that we're having here today to be available for all people.
It's so important. And I also just wanted to remind everybody that after the show, this will be on Mom Life TV. I'll put the link up on Facebook so people can find this again afterwards.
Great. That's really good to know. All right. Does anybody have any question here, or you guys, if you have anything to say,
Do you guys have any
ask
final
the doula or the doctor.
I think we're good. And Stacy, would you like to have just a little closing thing about Nature's Energy and the giveaway that you're
We're
doing?
very proud to be here. We really are. And Nature's Energy, I'm just repeating myself now, but we're giving away a 9-month supply of the prenatal vitamin, and I urge all of you to go online and check out the website and the other variety of products that we have. I think you'll be very pleased. Thank you again.
Thank you
Ana
so
Paula,
much.
Thank you so much for being here
My
today
pleasure.
and just for helping everybody, through their pregnancy experience. It's so, like you said, it's different for everyone, and there's so many questions that people really have, like in their hearts. And to work with somebody like you, I think, is so invaluable. And what doulas do and how they aid women.
Thank
Incredible.
you. Yeah, doulas are incredible. I really have to say, doulas are really wonderful people. So I want to say hi to all the doulas. And thank you so much to you for being here and sharing such beautiful wisdom.
Your stories.
Yes, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right, hugs all around. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to this great crew.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.